I want to share this dream I had a few days ago. It was a super long dream, so full of details. It would probably take me an hour to share everything, but I'm just going to give you like the main important details, and hopefully that's enough. I'm just going to give you the gist of the dream. What was going on was I was at an outdoor political event. It was something to do, it was half something to do with President Trump, half something about Black Lives Matter support. The event was outside, and what was interesting was there was concession stands like you would see at a fair. I remember there were nacho stands, pies. I remember a Starbucks concession stand, and then there was one dessert in particular that really stood out to me in this dream so much that myself and there were others with me, we just like gathered around a person that had this dessert, and it was peaches and cream. I think I understand possibly what that could mean. Now, if you guys remember, last year, the Holy Spirit kept giving me the word peach over and over and over. Everywhere I went, I came on here and I told you guys, I don't know why, but the Lord is trying to get my attention with the word peach. It would just come up so frequently that it was just off the wall. It was just too out of the ordinary with how often it was coming to me that I just knew this is not normal. And then people would just randomly say the word peach out of context to me. And then my husband and his brother happened to purchase an antique truck and pulled into the driveway, and it had a huge peach on the door. Just everywhere I went, constantly I was just bombarded with the word peach. And immediately after that was when they attempted to impeach President Trump. So I knew that's why I was getting the word peach, because it was pointing to, them trying to impeach him. So I'm wondering if the peaches and cream in this dream couldn't be talking about them possibly attempting to try to impeach him again. And I asked my husband if it was possible that they could do that, and he said yes, but don't quote me on that because I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know, but just the fact that the peach was in this dream again, and this event had to do with President Trump, I just kind of have a sneaking suspicion that it relates to that. So the stage was being set literally because I could see a cleaning crew pushing a broom across the stage, and they were setting up the microphone. So I know when you say the stage was being set, that's symbolism. Okay, so they were preparing the stage, and I was in the crowd with just everyday normal citizens. People were trying to find their seats and going and getting like their nachos and their peaches and cream and Starbucks. And right in front of me, in the middle of the crowd of citizens, sitting down was President Trump and Melania. And Melania had a stack of papers. I want to say maybe like 10 papers. They were stapled in the corner, and she was flipping through each page. And she would read it and shake her head in shame and shake her head in disgust. And she would say, she nudged President Trump with her elbow, and she would say, look at this. Oh, this is ridiculous. And she'd flip the page and do it again. She would nudge him and say, read this one. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. And she would just sit there and shake her head reading these papers. And I don't know specifically what the pages said, but I knew it was like some type of lies or false accusations against President Trump, like really ridiculous ones. And they were just disgusted by it and just shaking their head. So I don't know what they were going to be doing or saying at this event, but while the stage was being set, they were just there in the crowd with me while people were just, around them taking their seats and getting their snacks and things. There was one page in particular that Melania was looking at that really stuck out to me. And please forgive me, but I cannot find the words to describe how this paper looked. But the best way I can describe it is there were three items that come to mind when trying to describe how it looked. It was like a green and cream. It was the same color like on a dollar bill, that green cream color. That's the color of the page. But yet it also kind of reminded me of the like grainy digital look, like official government look that your social security card has to it. And also in the dream, for whatever reason, I thought in the dream that it looked like the cover of a farmer's almanac, which is strange because I can't tell you the last time I saw a farmer's almanac. I want to say it was probably when I was a kid at my grandparents' house, but from what I remember, I don't think it looked like what I saw in the dream, because I think it's just like yellow from what I remember. But in the dream, it was like, oh, farmer's almanac, but it didn't look like it. It was just like I had thoughts that it reminded me of that. So what I'm thinking the symbolism is with the farmer's almanac. So the farmer's almanac is basically what farmers look to look ahead for the weather for the coming year to grow their crops, I guess. So what that reminds me of is how President Trump was talking about, there's a storm coming. So just like symbolism of looking ahead at the weather. We're in the middle of this storm. And so that's kind of the only thing I can get from that aspect of it. But it was green and white like a dollar bill, but it also reminded me for some reason of your social security card. So it just kind of had like a official government document patterned look to it. So I'm not sure exactly what that was about, but that did stand out to me, so I thought I would mention it. But it was just, these papers were full of lies and false accusation against President Trump. And while they were doing that, I looked over and I saw a large parking lot of just black people only. And then I looked over and saw in the bleachers a very large black family. They were a famous family. So I can only deduce that they were probably there for a Black Lives Matter support issue. That's just my guess, because this famous family, they're very much, active in that. So, well, there was a lot going on, you guys, and this is just the main parts of it. So while all of this stuff is going on, the stage is being set, President Trump and Melania are looking at the papers of lies, and people are getting concession stand things, and I see the group of just black people only. There was a girl that came up to me. She was black, and I knew that she had a tie to Obama, but yet she wasn't part of the Black Lives Matter thing, as far as like the violent aspect of it, the rioters and that side of Black Lives Matter. She wasn't emotionally attached to that. She wasn't there for that. She was just kind of there, like I was just kind of there. I wasn't there for any particular reason than, I guess, just observing the dream. But she was pretty chill, and we had become friends because she came up to me and she made a political comment, and she said, "Could you believe if Hillary Clinton had been our president right now, the judgment would be much worse, because abortion would be even more off the charts than it is right now, and so judgment would be worse, and President Trump was put here by God to accomplish good things and to do his will." All of that is exactly what she said. That was straight from her mouth. And I replied and I said, yeah, I said President Trump is pretty arrogant. He's kind of crazy sometimes, but he speaks things like it is, and he was sent by God to do his will and to do good things for this country. So we hit it off and we became good friends, and we were just kind of, talking and hanging out, and, we were just taking pictures because I had made this new friend, and everything was pretty chill. She was just a normal person. She wasn't there for any sort of, in support of one or the other, or she wasn't violent or anything like that. And then all of a sudden there was an earthquake, and the bleachers that we were standing on they started swaying back and forth. And I've felt that sensation before. I've felt an earthquake before. And then it would stop, and then the bleachers would violently shake and rumble, and then it would stop, and then they would start to sway back and forth again. So this went on for some time, and then at some point it stopped. So while all that is going on, there's also an earthquake, right? So I'm thinking in this particular dream, the earthquake was symbolic of just a shaking going on, because I was dreaming about earthquakes a lot before the coronavirus started. So I think this earthquake in this dream was just talking about, a shaking going on in the world or in this country. So after that was over, all of a sudden, this girl that was with me, that she was tied to Obama, but yet she wasn't like I said, she wasn't a part of any certain group. She wasn't violent. She wasn't hateful. She was, on the same wavelength as me. All of a sudden, she just snapped. Something in her, it was like she became possessed, and she was magnetized and drawn straight. She zoomed off to that crowd of just black people. And she, in the dream, I had a small handgun just for protection in a large crowd. And she took that handgun from me, and she ran off to this crowd of black people. And she went specifically towards this one girl. She was maybe 16 to 22 years old, I guess. And like I said, it was like she was possessed and just magnetized over there, kind of just not even of her own will. It was like she was just dragged over there. All of a sudden, something snapped in her. She wasn't violent, but she was just kind of willed over there, and she started shooting after this girl. She didn't have any sort of hatred towards this girl. It didn't even seem like she knew this girl personally. She didn't have any reason to be shooting at her. She just did it. It was not even of her own, it wasn't even from her own mind or heart. She just did it. She was just led over there suddenly for no reason. And I went after her, and I was saying, "What are you doing? That's my gun. Why are you shooting at her with my gun?" And she realized what she was doing, and she realized that if she would have shot this girl, that it would have been traced back to me and I could get in trouble. So she froze, and she dropped that gun like a hot potato, and the bullets just spilled out all over the parking lot. And she was like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." But then she ran off and grabbed somebody else's gun and shot this girl and killed her. And like I said, it was just it wasn't anything within herself. It was just this, I knew she had a tie to Obama. And Obama is a race baiter. And I dreamt that about him before anything ever happened from him. As far as being a race baiter, because I had that dream where I saw him in a high school, and he was race baiting the students he said, "Repeat after me. Say racial." And they would, like robots, they said racial. And then he would just say it again. He said, "Say racial." And then they would say racial, like dead robots. So I've been telling my husband that this whole Black Lives Matter thing, as far as the violent aspect of it with the rioters and people just trashing businesses and everything, has Obama's fingerprints all over it. And I told my husband, I said, this is just his way of creating baby steps to getting people comfortable with and conditioned to and being desensitized to bowing before him. Because as you can see, these people are being taught to make white people bow down and get on their knees before them and renounce being white. And I said to my husband, it's deeper than that. It's a spiritual thing. This is him getting people comfortable with bowing before him, not just because he's black, but because he's the Antichrist. And that's just the way that it is. And I said, right now, people are being conditioned to renounce being white, but eventually he will make people renounce Jesus Christ. It's just baby steps. So I knew this girl was tied to Obama. She wasn't violent or anything, but all of a sudden something in her snapped and she was like possessed. And she just, for whatever reason, decided to go blow up and start shooting this one girl in this crowd of black people. And I can only assume that they were there for Black Lives Matter, because it was like they were there in support of something. And they were all just in one large group together. So again, this is just the main aspects of this dream, you guys. I could just go on and on. But that's the gist of it. I feel like it's important, and maybe it will make sense later on. So I don't know. I guess we'll see what comes of this. And I will be back if he gives me anything else that I feel is important to share on here. So, all right, bye.